lead through it?
No, actually, you're going to host this entire episode.
Sweet.
I'm going to stay for about 30 more seconds, and then I got to hit the bathroom.
Awesome.
So I'll be there for
this.
at least 45 solid minutes. You can really say whatever you want to say. If you go in that realm, I'll just make a note to put the little explicit mark on the.
You should probably just put that mark on there.
Yeah.
You might want to just mark that right now.
Leave it on there and just roll with it as it goes. That's okay. Well, let's go around the table, and everybody can introduce yourselves. This whole table is cosplayers. Now, would the 501st be considered cosplay?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, we technically, I guess you would be because we're dressing them in costume, but we don't call ourselves that. We're characters as part of an organization.
Sure.
So costumers then?
Costumers. There you go.
Yeah,
I like that better.
There's a lot of people who like costumers as a term.
Yeah.
And I actually appreciate costumer or cosplayer. It depends on whatever I feel like or whatever I'm doing at the time. It's different in each one, and I would consider 501st costumers over cosplayers.
Yeah. What would be the main difference between the two? Like for somebody that's never gone to a con, and I know that I've completely avoided we're going to get around the table.
Sure. Yeah.
But since we're here already, what would be that definition, that difference between cosplayers and costumers?
Well, actually, to me, a lot of times they are very interchangeable. But there are a lot of people who, if they prefer to be called one over the other, then I want to call them whatever they want to be called.
Sure.
But then two, the other defining thing that I've heard is a costumer is somebody who's basically trying to do something out of a movie. So like a costume designer out of a movie, or like in a movie is a costume designer and they're a costumer. So somebody who's trying to replicate a screen accurate type thing, and maybe not even go around and actually pretend like they're the character a whole lot. Although costumers do that too. Mainly just trying to go for that screen accuracy, building the costume itself. And that's a costumer.
Okay. And
like I said, a lot of times I just interchange them, and I don't. This isn't defined by anybody, I don't think. And then the cosplayer is the opposite, which is, or I guess the other one, which is just people who go out and they try to act like the character a lot, and it's just something that they tend to do. You've seen them around.
Now, I tend to think, for me, just personally, because of being a part of the 501st and Rebel Legion, that becomes more the costuming as opposed to if I go out and dress up as Batman myself and go to a convention, it's me as an individual doing a character as opposed to representing a group. So that's where I usually draw the distinction.
Yeah. Sure, and like I said, it really varies on the person and on whatever they want to be called. That's what I just try to call them.
Yep, absolutely.
I feel like I would be... I would fall into the category of getting into the character, like you. You obviously tell everybody that's listening what your name is.
My name is R.G. Moulter. I'm currently dressed as Star-Lord, and I really enjoy acting out the character, being a little bit of an entertainer when I'm in costume.
That's where I think I would fall. That's the category that I think I would fall in, and I think it's because of my theater background. You put all that time and energy and effort into the jacket and even the music that you were playing and stuff like that. That fits that character more than probably just me going along and creating something new that lives within some other universe. And but anyway. So.
Yeah, and James and I have had this discussion not too long ago about the difference between cosplayer and costumer, and some of it is just when you want to explain it to somebody who is outside of the group or somebody who's not familiar with cosplay. It's a little bit easier to explain, oh, I'm a costumer, I build costumes, and I may act out the character, whereas the term cosplay, I think for somebody who's not familiar with it, gets sort of a negative connotation because the word play is mixed in there, like it's something childish. Not that there's anything wrong with the term cosplay. It's just hard to explain to somebody who's not familiar with it.
Yeah, I've been in a situation where you try to explain cosplay, and they're like, well, what is that? And it's like, oh, costuming. I was like, oh, okay. Well, cosplay is kind of like a term between cosplayers. Yeah. Where outside of it, it's like, well, what is that? So costuming is easier to explain to like the public. Where if you say cosplay among cosplayers, like, oh, okay, yeah, totally get it.
Do you think that the general public puts cosplay in the LARPing realm because you get so involved with
I mean, I think it's funny because I think the general public lumps everything into one. In fact, I even had somebody put in a bio somewhere that said that I was into cosplay, and they were like, "Oh, so you and your wife dress up?" And no, that's different. But they take that and think that we're all one thing. We LARP and we cosplay and we do this and we
Sure.
So.
Interesting. And for everybody, we'll go ahead and go around the table now for everybody other than Star-Lord. Introduce yourself, who you're costuming or cosplaying as.
So my name is Chris English. I costume Hellboy, among other things. But like Hellboy is the character that I really gravitate to and the one I really connected with.
Nice.
So that's the one you can usually see me in Hellboy or a variation of Hellboy most of the time. So.
I was coming into the convention and you were unloading the van, and it was just in like a t-shirt, but it was just his whole head was red. Yeah. And I was like,
wait, Hellboy drives a van?
Yeah.
Oh,
they've
my
had to scale back a lot. So
Yeah,
but that's got to be intimidating for somebody that's driving. Maybe you're going through Wendy's or whatnot.
Oh, there's been plenty of times where I'm
face going on.
I'm because I like to eat when I'm at home, so I don't have to stop and make it awkward. And I don't because I'm putting on makeup. So I get to McDonald's and they're like, oh, because I got the red on and everything. And it's kind of scary. So there's been a few times where, like, I've ran into, like, older people at the line. And they're like, oh, my God. So it's like, yeah. And then toll booths. You get that at toll booths, too, sometimes. So
that would be joyful for me.
That really is one of my favorite things. I actually like going outside of like a convention while I'm in costume and just kind of mess with people, or stop at like a gas station and see what people's reactions are. Now the problem with it is a lot of times I have actual prop guns on me, so I always unload all like the weapons, and then I to walk in because I don't want to look like I'm actually going to be like shooting up the place.
Sure.
But and a lot of times people will say hey, I got to ask what's this for, and I'll say I'm going to a convention or I'm going to a charity event or something, and then a lot of times though people just kind of look the other way, or just, they don't want to even talk to you. They're just like, what's going on with this guy?
Well, it depends on what costume you're wearing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Some of them are very military accurate. Some are very,
true.
violent in that respect, and not a bad thing. But
Right.
just, it's a difference if you walk in and you're dressed as a Jedi, or if you're dressed as a stormtrooper, and they know you're clearly from a universe, as opposed to walking in with rifle strapped to your, and bullets.
I'm John Murphy from Call of Duty. Oh,
exactly,
what?
exactly. So I think that sometimes can scare people. I have an Imperial officer costume, the black costume, the Imperial officer from the Death Star, and I will not wear that unless I'm near Darth Vader. Because people go, oh, you're a Nazi, and I'm like, no, I'm not. And so it's really a perception thing. You got to be careful what you do with which costume you're wearing.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
and also I go in half
theologically, we're
costume.
too far off.
Understand, but the general public thinks you're really a Nazi.
Very, very, very true.
Yeah, it really does depend. Some people I'll go in and I'll be dressed as Cable. I'll be half dressed as Cable, right? So I have my Cable eye on, but I don't have my arm on or anything. And they're like, "Oh, hey, you're Cable, right?" And I'm like, sweet. Like, and actually that's a great way of getting to know someone and figuring out like, oh, hey, we have a lot in common because you pulled off the fact that I was Cable without me even being in costume, in half costume. That's really cool. I mean, I've met a couple like just random like gas station clerks that every time I go in there now, I'm like, I stop there on the way to conventions or from conventions because they want to see what's going on.
Right.
That'd be awesome. What's your name, buddy?
James Wolfgar.
James, and you're cosplaying.
Right now, I'm cosplaying Punichu, which is a mashup between the Punisher and Pikachu. And I actually am the leader and like founder of Cause Awesome Studios.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Yeah, and we're based out of Indiana, but we have members kind of all over now. We started about a couple years ago, and then we really started getting serious about going to conventions and organizing a little over a year ago.
And what exactly does Cause Awesome do? Like, what's the foundation?
Well, actually, we do a lot of events.
Okay.
We do everything. We mainly we want to have fun in costume, and actually spread the awesomeness that is like costuming and cosplaying. That's our mission, which is cool because anybody from LARPers to furries to all that stuff, they're all costuming, and that's cool. And we try to support that. And then the other thing too is what we do is we do a lot of events. So we'll do charity events, and then we'll also do Mostly most of our characters that we do are superheroes. Although we have done some like sci-fi things. I like to do colonial marines from Aliens and that sort of thing. So we get into all kinds of different genres. I cross over every once in a while and go into the Star Wars realm, but we're not like 501st.
Right.
But really what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to just have fun in costume. And a big thing, too, like in my house, if you visit my house, a lot of times people come in that don't do costuming, and they come in, they're like, oh, man, this is crazy that you guys do that. And then we're like, wait, it's crazy that you don't do that. Right? So all of a sudden it's weird because it's kind of not turning the tables, but it's a different outlook on it too. I mean, I like to play D&D, and I like to play all the like the dorky things that there are in life, and you might as well just own that.
Sure.
And so anyway, we go out and we do events, and we actually like to put together like big photo shoots, and just try to promote costuming and all the fun that you can have with it.
Outstanding. Now to kind of pigtail over to the 501st. I always want to say 501, and I have to catch myself every single time. The relationship, and Jeff, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second. The sheer expansion that the 501st has, do you feel that they have they're kind of the pioneers, so to speak, in that cosplay acceptance in general society?
I mean, I think, I don't know if it necessarily we would be, because we certainly did not start it all. There were cosplayers and stuff for, years well before we ever did the Star Wars thing. I think what's happened with the Star Wars is that so many people identify with it in the general public, that it becomes a little more accessible because it's characters they recognize, as opposed to, they can walk up and say, I know Darth Vader, I know a Stormtrooper, I know a Jedi, as opposed to saying, that looks like Hellboy, maybe, and their number, and so I think that just gives the general public a little more acceptance and something they truly recognize. And the difference also, and not any kind of negativeness, because I do other costumes other than this too, and so, but the pardon me, the 501st and Rebel Legion have a certain standard that you have to meet to be able to be a part of that organization. It's not saying that's good or bad. It just requires that your costumes have to really be accurate to that genre.
Yeah.
And so when people see it, they truly see something they've seen on screen, as opposed to people taking variations of it or doing their own creation of it. We can't go, I want to do a green stormtrooper that's going to be acceptable. Yes, they can do it for fun, but they can't do it as something as part of that organization. So we try to be a little bit more exacting in their standards, but we are a worldwide costuming organization. There are chapters all over the world, thousands and thousands of members. We have a local chapter here in Indiana. We're the Bloodfin Garrison, StarWarsIndiana.com. But we do charity work. We don't pay to be a part of this group. We don't charge people to be a part of this group. Everything we do is for charity. So if we go out and do an event, we say, we will be there, but please make a donation to your charity in our name. So, if we do a birthday party for a 4-year-old, the mother might say, all right, I'm going to donate to United Way in the name of the 501st.
Sure.
And so, once again, that's what we do it for that. And we're also the only ones that are recognized by Lucas and by Disney. So anytime you see Star Wars characters marching in, say, a Rose Parade or at Disney World for their Star Wars days, those are all 501st members. So, or Rebel Legion.
Yeah.
501st the bad guys, Rebel Legion the good guys.
Okay.
I feel that you're being humble, but I really do still think that the 501st kind of made it possible for, because if the 501st wasn't around, I really, really doubt that a Hellboy could probably walk down the street or have major conventions without, you see Hellboy, most people's minds are like, yeah, there's probably going to be a Stormtrooper around here somewhere.
They
just
definitely,
go hand in hand.
I feel like 501st definitely trailblazed a bit, right? So, I mean, when you think of, even when you look back at the old pictures of some of the old cons, I mean, you see a lot of people in a lot of Star Wars stuff, and he's completely right in the fact that a lot more people recognize Star Wars. Baby boomers loved Star Wars and love Star Wars, but everybody from them,
you should probably watch this movie sometime. Is it with an S?
Right,
Star Wars?
Yeah, it's it's on the to see list, I think.
I'll start it with episode 1.
Oh,
Is that a good
yeah.
spot to start at?
Yeah, episode...
Jeff's over here. I can't. I'm starting to cry now.
Right. Actually, I just had a small child, and I'm trying to decide which order he should watch it in. I think I'm going to go with the order that I watched it in.
4.
Yeah, 4. I'm going to... Just the same one I did. But, yeah, so they really did trailblaze that. I know that people were doing it beforehand, and, I mean... That's nothing against them at all, but I actually think as far as the major organization, and like he was saying, the worldwide organization, to my knowledge, it's the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones around.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest one. And also, I mean, anytime that there's somebody who does it, or an organization who does it really, really big and is successful at it, I mean, that just helps for everybody else that's kind of like that too, right?
And then, too, with the 501st, like being one of the groups to do it with the charity work, is that you're building that trust. So it's like, we've got 501st here, so, we got this other costuming group, and they can do it, and this other costuming group, and they can do it, because we've seen the 501st do it and do it well and do it for a long time. So it, like, builds that trust between the public. Like, costumers can be trusted and are, warm-hearted, and you can invite them to events and charities and know that it's going to be fine.
Sure.
Because of groups like the 501st doing it for, decades. So.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. I'd actually like to speak on that a little bit, too. Just because somebody's in costume does not mean that you can trust them either.
Well,
okay?
I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's...
I know you're saying add the legitimacy to
I
the fact.
I totally know
agree
what
with
you're saying, but that's something else, too, that you need to... That a lot of people actually, I feel like, really need to be aware of, because we're such a accepting and open community. But, I mean, just because someone is in costume does not mean that you can completely trust them. RG was actually just telling me a story. I'll let him go ahead and tell it.
Sure.
But here you go.
Which story is this?
The baby story.
Oh, yeah. I do Jack Sparrow as well as a Tonto, which, if you're familiar with the...
Were you at Indiana Comic-Con as Jack Sparrow?
Yes.
Okay. You looked familiar. That sounds
I
weird.
can't believe
but-
people recognize me outside of the Tonto and the Jack Sparrow, because I don't look quite
So
like...
clearly you're a Johnny Depp fan.
I am no, that is not true. I enjoy
like his character.
I enjoy his characters because they're a little bit outlandish, and I enjoy doing the entertainment portion.
Nice.
But I was at Gen Con dressed as Tonto with the full face paint and the crow on my head,
remember that.
which the crow's like about 2.5 feet wide. And I like to leave the convention because you have the cosplayers and costumers who you're familiar with, and they recognize you. And after a while, interacting with them, people aren't as. I like to step out and see what the general public thinks when they see me in costume. So as I'm walking down one of the streets right past Dick's Last Resort, they have an outdoor patio where people eat. And they're just inside of, like, a fence. And this guy has an infant, and as I'm walking by dressed as Tonto, he shoves this infant into my hand before I can say, like, no, I don't want to hold your baby. So the kid's in my hand screaming and crying. I can feel his diaper getting warm in my hand. He snaps a picture real quickly, and I'm like, just give the kid back as fast as I can. And I'm just thinking,
Here you go, Kimosabe.
I mean, somebody walks by with face paint and a bird on their head. That's not the person that I'm personally going to put my
Take
child
my
in there.
child,
I mean,
please.
it wasn't even a question asked. I mean, I'm thinking, I could have done anything with this kid. Obviously, this guy has more trust than me, but this was a little bit of an interesting situation and a story.
I never thought about it on that sense. I guess because I'm surrounded by it so much. I'm personally not a cosplayer or a costume. I'd love to do
Shame
stuff
on
like
you.
that. I know. Yeah. And this whole thing is done now because I want to. I think it would be an immense amount of fun. The problem for me is I know that it's also an immense amount of time and dedication.
Yeah. And money.
And money, yes. And you don't have to go into super details, but where do you find the time to create what you create and how you create it? Because I'm assuming some of them might be easier, some of them might be significantly harder to find the pieces, to find. I'm on the verge of starting a collection of helmets. For some reason, I'm fascinated by like Power Ranger helmets and stuff like that. I think it would be amazing just to collect those, but to put together and piece together everything. And again, you guys that are listening can't see what I'm seeing, but there's literally a spectrum of comic book characters and movies characters. It's blows my mind what people can can do to such accuracy. How do you do that?
I get very caught up in the details and being as accurate as I possibly can, especially with the Jack Sparrow. The Jack Sparrow started out, I mean, when I sewed every piece of that on my own. It was like a trip to Disney World with my kids for the Halloween thing, and then I came back from that and said, I have to build a great Jack Sparrow costume. Yeah. So I just spent like weeks and weeks sewing it, getting it ready so I had something for Halloween. And I look back on those pictures of it initially, and I think that wasn't very good. But everybody that saw it was like, man, that's amazing. And, I've probably got hundreds of hours in that in, updating pieces. I built the wig, searching the internet to find pieces. I resin cast all the buttons for the jacket, and then I hand embroidered the buttons and stuff like that. So you just get really caught up. I guess you find the time, whether it's you're staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Because you look at it, and somebody else is going to say, that's the most amazing thing I've seen, and you're like, yeah, those buttons didn't come out exactly as I wanted. And
I look at the buttons and I think,
you guys are probably all the same place, is that we're never happy with what we have. I am always wanting to upgrade. I hate my belt boxes on my Jedi belt now. So I've just ordered, $200 worth of leather ones instead of the foam ones. And it's that kind of thing. I have to constantly upgrade. I do the same thing. I look back at pictures of my first Jedi and go, oh my. But people loved it. It got accepted in 501st. People were like, and I'm just like, I'm not happy with it. Yeah. So I am always upgrading, and you make props and stuff too. So you got to be always upgrading.
I got to say, I'm probably of the opposite mindset, which is I'm got to be in the minority here probably. But I realized early on that I have a list a mile long of costumes that I want to do. So now I actually, I do them, and I do them as best as I can. But I do want to get things done pretty quickly. Depending on what's going on, I don't worry about screen accuracy as much. Depending on which costume I'm doing, I try to put like my own little spin on it, which is helpful because it's my own spin. But then also, I don't have to have, like, the gun doesn't have to have, like, a trigger that looks exactly like the trigger in the gun and the other one. Because my hands are going to be on it anyway.
You guys are all makers. You guys make your own stuff, right? Yeah. See, I don't. I am not creative in any way. I have no skills. So I have to find people who can do those for me.
I know,
so
guys.
It's a huge difference.
I think we know some people. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's the thing. I have to find that, and I can't make my own. I'm like, I can't, so I don't do. So I think that may make a difference too. Is I'm always looking for something better because I can do. Yeah. So.
Right.
For me,
part of what I've enjoyed about the cosplaying and costuming is actually learning how to do those things. Like I want to know how to do it all. So it's whether it's searching the internet to find how to do it, spending hours at my sewing machine, fighting with the troubleshooting whatever issue I had to the point like now I can sit down and hammer through a costume, modify. Like I made the boots for my Star-Lord costume, so that's all about like creating patterns and doing what you can and searching the internet for how they built them for the movie, so you can build them as similar to the movie.
I know for me is as far as trying to find time, it's like putting some things on the back burner, like my video games, because I love video games. And
I miss video games.
Yeah, and it's like, he's like, well, I need to get this done, but I want to play Mass Effect, or I want to play Witcher or Arkham City or whatever. And it's like, I can't do it because I got to get this costume done. And then you realize where your priorities are. It's like I was super into games, and now I'm like really into costumes, and I kind of just want to do costumes all the time. So it's like sacrificing that, like video games or girlfriend or things like that.
I will say this too, that I see a lot of people that sacrifice different things, but the cool thing about it is you get to take it as seriously as you want to, right? So some people are all about it and they want to learn how to make everything and get everything down to the very fine detail. But like you were saying, you want a costume, right? You could get in a costume today. I mean, honestly, I probably have enough stuff in the van that we could probably throw things on you and actually put you in a costume and you'd have fun. And the point of it, in my mind anyway, is to have fun with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, you can totally go crazy detailed into it. And to a lot of people, that's having fun, right? That's how they have the fun, and that's great because they know they look just like spot on, accurate, and awesome. But really, however you're going to have fun with it. If you want to put on Pikachu ears and run around just as yourself and have Pikachu ears and you're having fun with that, awesome. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
And also
I've seen a few people here that are like that.
Yeah, so. It kind of builds on itself too, right? So it's just like anything else. You play that first video game and you're like, oh man, this is kind of cool. Mario Brothers is pretty sweet. And then, sooner or later you're playing Call of Duty or WoW or something like that you're like way into. So it's just like anything else. It's an addictive thing. You can get into it, like just a little into it. You can dip a toe into it, or you can just jump all the way into.
So having to give things up, whether it be video games or movies or girlfriends. Sorry, dude. But the flip side, and both of you hit on this, which was the charity aspect and the having fun, and for all intents and purposes, the giving back, the doing birthday parties or going to hospitals or whatever else. Have you, and this is a very broad, not everybody has to answer it, but is there any moments like that have stood out in the past where you're like, this is why I'm doing this. This is going to make my millennium because this certain thing happened.
I have my first event I went to was like autism awareness at a kids baseball game.
Okay.
And all the kids there were autistic, and they played a baseball game and everything like that. And so, because I was always wanting to do a little something more with the costume and pose like contests and cons and stuff. So it's my first event, and I went there, and the kids just half of them loved it, and half of them because I was Hellboy. So half of them were like scared to death, half of them loved it. But it was cool because like they come up and they grabbing my horns and they're ruining my tail and they're tugging at my stuff, and it's like, but it's like it was cool because that means that they were engaged and they appreciated it, and it was fun for them. Yeah. So it was like, I can just make another one. Here's my horn. Knock yourself out. So it was just fun doing that. And then at that moment I realized, like, this is like a better way to, give back than opposed to like, okay, cons and contests and things like that. And it also too, like, the memories last longer. Yeah. So, because I remember that like it was yesterday. Right. And I've been to like cons and it's like they're a blur. But that autistic baseball game, I remember like it was yesterday because it was so cool to have the kids come up and just ruin my stuff.
Well, and I purposely make a point. I bring a less expensive lightsaber when I'm going to be at public events like this. I have expensive custom-made ones for me.
Right.
Yeah. But I want to make sure that I can hand that lightsaber to a child who comes up and goes, wow. I want to be able to hand that to him and watch his face hold that. I would rather lose a $100 lightsaber than lose a $500 lightsaber. Yeah. And so I try to make sure that we accommodate each of those kids because they look up and they see a character they've seen on TV and say, wow, I'm seeing this in person. And they believe. I mean, those faces, that's what I do it. I'm a kid guy and I love it. So it's pretty amazing.
Oh, we got a small cosplayer. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Chris English's daughter.
Yes.
You want to say hi? Nope.
Nope.
You miss Daddy.
She's got a great Joker costume. I saw her in the contest, and she whooped out her Joker card.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a nice little touch right there. Well
She's
done.
got the magic tricks and such.
Well,
that's cool. I was going to say, it's cool that, look, the families can do it together, too. My daughter does a little Padawan. My daughter does a little Jedi. Wow. It's that kind of thing. It's the fact that you guys can cosplay and do this together. So you talk about giving up time. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes just making time, and you do it with the family if you have to. So, I think that's wonderful. That's good parenting right here. That's good parenting.
Yeah, and going on along those same lines, my wife and I actually have bonded quite a bit over actual cosplay because, I mean, don't get me wrong, we were hanging out way before cosplay, and I would play video games, and she would watch movies, and we'd watch movies together, she'd read books and that sort of thing. But now we can actually do that one hobby together, right? And she can really appreciate, when I make a prop, she comes up and critiques it, and then we work well together, and then she'll make stuff too. So a lot of times what's fun is she'll learn how to make one thing, I'll learn how to make something else, and then we'll just, collaborate and just do a really good job as a team, I feel like. And that's brought us closer together. So it doesn't even have to just be, parent-child relationship. It can be any kind of relationship.
Sure.
It's exactly, because my wife actually runs a burlesque company, and so it's funny, she'll take things that I have, Klingon costumes and things, she'll steal those parts and use them in her burlesque stuff that brings it all together, because she'll do the nerd-style burlesque. And so it's a really amazing thing that we share, because she likes that dress-up thing. She just likes to dress up and take it off, where I just keep mine on. So
right, yeah.
And I have my daughter also enjoys. She likes to do some Disney characters, and she gets really excited about. She went and did free comic book day with us and dressed up as Spider-Girl.
Yeah,
hung out with our friend who dresses as Spider-Woman. I did a Vanellope von Schweet, which she wants me to build her a racing car for an event, so I'll try and get her her Vanellope von Schweet car done. But the great thing about cosplay, it does bring everybody together. I've only been doing this for a little bit over a year. My first convention was Indiana Comic-Con last year, and I have to say my group of friends and the people I interact with and has grown 10 times, and I've had the most fun I've probably ever had over the last year interacting. I met James maybe like 5 or 6 months ago, and we've been hanging out ever since. Chris and I met a few months ago, and we all have movie night together. We get together and build costumes. It's just like a great community, and you're doing something that I honestly probably a year, 2 years ago was mildly embarrassed to talk about. Now I go in, I have a corporate job, and I love going into meetings, and when they do the little around the table, tell us something personal about yourself, it's like, oh, I make costumes, and I just leave it at that, and they just look at me like, what's
Trump that corporate people? What are you gonna do?
What do you do in these costumes? They automatically go.
Oh, they
the
always
adult
assume the
route
worst.
with that, probably.
Yeah. Which is fine. Just let them think that. That's cool.
Yeah. Which
just give them a high five on the way out.
Yeah. I've become much more open about the building costume. I've liked Halloween and costumes ever since I was a kid, but I found even in that corporate setting, opening up about the fact that I build costumes. I maybe don't use the term cosplay because doesn't seem to resonate quite as well in the corporate environment. But my boss will ask me, hey, what's the next convention you're going to? Oh, hey, let's see some pictures. I met Stan Lee at C2E2, so everybody at work was excited to see the pictures of me with Stan Lee in my Star-Lord costume.
Those weird eyebrow raised looks from the costume comment are now like, you met Stan Lee?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's usually how it works. Like at first they're just like, oh, really? And then you're like,
you're a nerd.
Here, look at this prop gun I have. And they're like, oh, and then they pick it up and they're over there shooting it and pretending like they're a little kid again. Like, that's exactly the point. And actually, along those same lines, if we got time.
Yeah. This is a podcast. We can go as long as we want, but I want to be respectful of your guys'
What's
time.
really funny, and I actually have noticed this too, is we had a couple conversations about this. There are a lot of actual celebrities that are celebrities, and maybe even actors and that sort of thing, that every once in a while they'll, like, for Halloween or something or other, they'll dress up in a costume, and I mean they look like they're having the time of their life, and they're actual big celebrities here. And I'm sitting here going, well, yeah, that's the point, right? Like they're having fun as big kids as well, and I feel like they're getting it too, right? So like anybody you hand a lightsaber to, or a prop gun to, or a cool looking Iron Man mask, for a second you put that on and you become a kid again,
sure,
right? And I really, really like being a kid.
You both mentioned Halloween. To kind of start to wrap things up, is Halloween different now? That for those that have been doing this for a while, those that are relatively new, is it a different approach for costumers and cosplayers where it's like, we're actually not going to dress up, we're not going to do anything because everybody else is doing it? Or do you say, no, we're going to take it to the next level, and not only am I going to make my boots, I'm going to make rockets that attach to the boots, and I'm going to fly to each house?
Yeah.
It kind of becomes, or at least for me, I don't usually have parties at my house, but you do attempt to go over the top, or whoever you're having a party with, you try and help them create an interesting environment, or really just enjoy that one night. It seems like that was the one night when we were all kids that we all really looked forward to. It's funny in these groups, most kids say, Christmas is my favorite holiday, but I bet if you ask inside the cosplay community, what's your favorite holiday, it's almost always Halloween.
Yeah, actually, I do know. Personally, I love Halloween, and I still love Halloween. It is different. It has changed quite a bit since I've become a cosplayer, mainly because when I go out now, I have to realize that I'm going out to like a party or a bar or something, and I'm not in a convention, right? So like all of a sudden, I like to go to a couple bars and just kind of have fun at the bar. Again, like I said, it's all about having fun, but then every once in a while they'll have like a costume contest and that sort of thing. It's not the same type of costume contest, and they're not judging off the same stuff that they're doing at like a convention, for example.
Sure.
Much more popularity contest at
yeah,
bars.
or just I use the term every once in a while, like, Well, they out Halloweened me, right? So I once I went to a Halloween contest, and I mean, I don't mind at all. I really don't mind losing to that at all. But basically, what happened was, I got up on stage. I was called up on stage. I had, a big full suit of armor. I was actually Xanatos from Gargoyles. Wow. But the thing about it is, I had a full suit of armor and a full set of wings, but nobody knew who I was because, I mean, I'm out with a bunch of college kids, and at the time, it was a couple years ago, so they don't know what Gargoyles was. They knew that I look cool. I mean, the announcer's not even calling me Xanatos from Gargoyles. He's like, the red gargoyle-looking guy. Well, I don't even know. He might have heard me say gargoyle, but the red guy in armor with wings.
Generic red-looking dude.
And I mean, my wings, articulate and stuff, and it was cool that they, picked me to go up there. But right away, I was like, I don't think these guys know who I am or, what my character is. But I didn't mind too much. It was cool to go up there. And then the winner of it, the guy who they ended up winning and was crowd favorite, was at the local college I'm at, he was actually a transformer that transformed into the school mascot.
Oh, wow.
Right? But, I mean, his stuff was made out of cardboard, but it still was awesome. Yeah. Because, I mean, he was able to transform into it. He had all the colors and stuff. And, I mean, he out Halloweened anyone there, obviously, because I mean and he had fun with it, which was great. And I mean, his costume was awesome. It was made out of cardboard. I don't mind that at all. It looked good for what it was. It was that's just totally fine. And I know I've talked to a lot of cosplayers who actually don't like Halloween because of that type of thing. And
I'm like, well, amateur night.
Yeah, right. But I mean, again, if you're having fun with it, you're doing it right.
Exactly.
In my mind.
Yeah.
I like it.
My Halloween, I was going to say, mine has kind of changed in the fact that my daughter has kind of started getting in. She's 9.
Okay.
And so she started getting into this. So last year, she had to go as Girl Robin from Batman and Robin. So she said, Daddy, you have to go with me, but you have to wear your Batman. Okay. So I had to do what she did because Halloween's her holiday now and not mine. And so
that's perfect. That's a perfect match for you guys, like the Dark Knight Batman and Robin, the older Batman.
And so, I had to follow her around, and all the neighbors are like, "Oh, you do it together, great!" So
supposed to. It has nothing to do with cosplay, but next Batman movie is supposed to have a female Robin.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Anybody have anything coming up going on? You want to plug? You want to talk about?
I think our next convention is going to be PopCon.
Okay.
In 3 weeks, and I imagine all of us are going to be there. That'll be fun.
Yep.
We got a fan table there, and 501st always has a fan table there.
Check out Cos Awesome Studios. I'm Heart Sleeve Cosplay on Facebook.
I'm Papa Bear on Facebook.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Also, I do some interviews for Nerd Caliber dress, so I'll be dressed as Jack Sparrow or Star-Lord, interviewing other cosplayers.
Nice.
So there's some of those fun videos out on YouTube. So look for Nerd Caliber. Check out my videos; they're a lot of fun. Usually just goofing around with my fellow cosplayers.
Yeah, and we just are cosawesome.com.
Okay.
And if you want to look us up,
StarWarsIndiana.com or the 501st Rebel Legion. All of our stuff is there. So
and Star Wars S at the end.
Yeah,
just
Star
to confirm.
Wars.
StarWarsindiana.com. Check out this movie. I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, so. We hope it'll take off someday. We hope somebody will like it. So, and everybody's of course excited about the new one. And I don't know if you've had a chance for you guys, just completely the podcast won't hurt. But if you haven't seen, we actually have one of the Episode 7 new movie Star Wars helmets.
Oh,
one of the only 75 in the nation right now at the booth. So,
what about that lightsaber though?
Which lightsaber?
The one with
the new one with the cross. They're already making those. Yeah, they're already making all these. It's amazing. So
yeah, I mean, I like anytime there's anything new and creative and cool. I mean I don't know. I tend to like that kind of stuff.
I'm a fan too. Everything.
Is there a purpose for the hilt on the new blade?
Yeah, to block, man. To block.
I mean, when you're
you
fighting,
can't get your hand cut off like Luke did.
That's
what I looked up.
But there's but the hilt
extends beyond the base.
Yes.
You can chop that right off.
Yes.
Okay, but
that's what I'm saying. Is that you got a little metal piece that comes out before the blade shoots out. So if it even slid down.
I got something for you. You need to go on YouTube. Go on YouTube and look up Stephen Colbert lightsaber explanation.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
That's I'm totally with him in that he completely explains it right, and he just as far as I'm concerned, he just dropped the mic on that one. It's done.
That's it and done. Well, cool. Thanks for taking some time.
Thanks for having us.
Toy Fest 2015. here at the Wyndham. Hopefully, if you haven't come down, you'll come back again next year if it's happening next year. But enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your time here, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ooh.